Welcome. Welcome to those of us in the auditorium. Welcome to those online. To start, I acknowledge the traditional owners and their custodianship of the lands on which we meet today. On behalf of all of us gathered here, I pay respects to their ancestors and their descendants who continue cultural and spiritual connections to country. We acknowledge and appreciate their valuable contributions to Australian and global society. I was thinking, well, I better introduce myself, but then when I came in and I saw the names on the list, I thought, well, just about everybody here knows me. Well, I know all of you, but if you don't know me, my name is Virginia Slaughter. I am currently the Dean of the Graduate School here at UQ, and I was formerly head of the School of Psychology for 10.5 years. It is an honor to be the MC for this event. Matt and I both arrived in the School of Psychology in the same year, 1996, and we've been colleagues throughout those years until now. I'm an admirer of his, and I'm also a beneficiary of the Positive Parenting Program, which helped my husband and me navigate some tricky times when we were both relatively young and raising two active and strong-minded toddlers. I am a developmental psychologist by training, and I'm often asked parenting questions, and I always recommend Triple P. So it's my pleasure to introduce our Vice Chancellor and President, Professor Deborah Terry, AC. Debbie is also a longtime colleague of Matt's, and she's watched Triple P grow over the last 25 years. Debbie.
Well, wonderful to be here and good to see so many people here, some colleagues from the past, and wonderful to see so many people here. Matt, keen to help celebrate all that you have contributed. Can I too acknowledge the traditional owners of the lands on which we're meeting here this afternoon and pay our respects and our thanks to elders past, present and emerging. Obviously acknowledge UQ colleagues, distinguished guests and of course our guest of honour, Professor Matt Sanders. And it really is a privilege for me to be here today to reflect on the extraordinary career of Matt.
Listening.
Listen, talking. A career, I hasten to add, isn't over. Matt will remain, as many will know, as an emeritus professor at UQ, continuing to mentor students and contributing to UQ's outstanding parenting research. And I think that's entirely consistent with Matt's career here at UQ and his long-term focus and commitment on developing the next generation. Now, Virginia may have said this before I came in, but Matt has been part of UQ since 1979. And over the past 4 decades, he's fundamentally changed the landscape of parenting research. His work has left an impact, not just here at the university, but around the world, touching the lives of millions of people. And I've had the privilege of working with Matt since I arrived in the School of Psychology in 1990, before Triple P even existed. And I think actually, Matt, you did start off in the old Department of Psychiatry and then made the transition to psychology. When I arrived, as I say, Matt had already been working here for a decade, expanding on his PhD research and further developing the strategies for dealing with child behaviour that were to become the basis of the Triple P program. Now, I know that we're going to be hearing about Matt's career from others. So what I want to do is briefly reflect on how his work has impacted the university. Now, as Vice-Chancellor, my job these days, part of my job is to persuade others, people to work, to research, invest and study here at the university. So I'm often called upon to describe the qualities that make UQ the leading university that it is. And when I do that, I often talk about UQ's mission to deliver for the public good. And I'll often stress, that's our role. We deliver for the public good fundamentally as a university. And we do that through education, through excellence in education, through excellence in research, and excellence in engagement. We only do three things: we teach, we research, and we enrich the communities in which we are embedded. And the example that I'll often use to demonstrate the public good is, of course, Matt Sanders and Triple P. The fact that Triple P has been implemented in more than 30 countries and, as I've said, transformed the lives of millions is a perfect example of how our research is translated to deliver far-reaching social benefits. And when we talk about commercialisation and translation, we often talk about those things within the university sector. It's often something that the outside world thinks we should do more of, and it's often, there's a view that's often out there that Australia is very good at basic blue sky research, but isn't as good as we need to be at translation. And at the university, we often remind people that UQ's had an amazing commercialisation history. UniQuest this year, and it will be celebrated early next year, celebrates 40 years, which is phenomenal. Before, universities have really thought about commercialisation. And there's been so many successes, but the big three that are often referred to: Gardasil vaccine, the fact that a critical piece of technology that was essentially discovered here at the University of Queensland is now used in all MRI machines around the world, or the majority of them. And of course, the licensing of Triple P programs all over the world. And there used to be a graph when I was Executive Dean of SBS that basically showed that the commercialisation success coming from one faculty, when you plotted that against all of the universities in the country, the faculty did extremely well and much better than many of our counterpart institutions. But Triple P, as we know, at its heart is about helping parents make small changes in their parenting, which in turn create much bigger changes in the lives of their children. It's about applying evidence from research into human behaviour to create that positive change. And we can all think of examples, well, I can, when I was in the supermarket with a 2-year-old or a 3-year-old, one of my 3 children, thinking the child really wanted a chocolate or a lolly, and I'd have in my ear, Matt would say, "Do not reward this behaviour." And I'm thinking everybody else is looking at me, there's chaos. Child's making a lot of noise. It's kind of 6 o'clock on a Thursday night. What am I going to do? But I always did remember your advice, Matt. But the idea of the small changes making a big difference obviously connects directly to our commitment to serve our community. And it's no secret that at the university, I've been pushing hard on our current major philanthropic campaign, which is about the Queensland commitment. And that's about giving students the support they need to overcome social barriers so that they can get a university education. And if they aspire to come to UQ, that we will, and they are accepted into the university, that we will provide them with the support in a kind of needs blind way to facilitate that. But because I think, as we all know, the big role that social determinants can play in perpetuating disadvantage. And we see that in so many different realms. Education is one of them. But of course, we've seen some wonderful evidence that Triple P can impact on that, intergenerational disadvantage. So just a few months ago, Matt and his colleagues published a paper showing a 25% drop in child maltreatment in communities using the Triple P program. And that's a remarkable statistic, because here we're talking about creating positive change in some of Australia's most socially disadvantaged communities. And obviously Matt's paper and other work that I've heard him speak about over the years spells that out very starkly. Bad parenting practices can account for 40% of mental health problems in adults in Australia. And if we are able to reduce that, then we've got the potential to improve mental health in those communities on a large scale. And of course, if we can address things like mental health, then it will impact upon many other outcomes that we are, as a society, are interested in. And so, in other words, Matt's pioneering work and all of the work he's done with many colleagues here is helping parents raise their children in ways that will help those children be positioned to overcome some of the disadvantages caused by poverty, by other social challenges, and of course, by many others playing a role. So I know others will be talking about other aspects of Matt's work, but his accolades are numerous, and it's really appropriate that we acknowledge that, from being named Queenslander of the Year to receiving a Queensland Great Award, being recognised as an officer of the Order of Australia. Matt's contributions to his field and to society are well known. But I do want to stress today, it's not just Matt's contribution to UQ's reputation that have led to all of those recognitions. It's not simply because of an amazing impact on an area of research. It is that broader impact on our community and on our society. And the contribution is obviously reflected in an extraordinary body of work, more than 500 publications during his time at UQ, including 9 books and 8 government reports. He's made more than 500 keynote speeches, and I know that's to a range of different audiences, not just academic audiences. And critically, he's supervised more than 50 PhD students, most of them from UQ, and that is another remarkable contribution to future generations. So as VC of UQ, as a fellow, previous colleague, and as a parent, I do want to thank you, Matt, for your extraordinary contributions. And while this is a farewell, it's definitely not a goodbye. I look forward to seeing your work continue, the broadening impact of the P program, seeing you around our campus, and you'll be part of that club, the Emeritus Professors Club. And I can tell you, we always have very good events. They're events that I will usually give updates on, and it's amazing how many of your new colleagues, they've always got lots of questions, and it's always a very good event. But it's also a community that is really committed to giving back to the university and helping in all sorts of different ways. So certainly look forward to you being part of that. But Matt, congratulations. It is an extraordinary career. You should be very, very proud of all that you have contributed. And I can assure you the university is extremely proud. So thank you, and I hope the afternoon goes well.
Thank you, Debbie. Please now welcome Associate Professor Karen Turner, Deputy Director of the Parenting and Family Support Center, to say a few words.
Thanks, Virginia.
I've fallen down on my MC duties.
Well, that's me. I'd also like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the lands that we're meeting on and where we live and work, and pay my respects to elders who have passed and those who are still with us. I believe I get an early slot today because I've the sheer longevity of having worked with Matt since, dare I say, 1980s, mid-80s. It was in the early 90s when Matt and Carol Markey-Dadds, who is online, I believe, somewhere, and I started working on putting together the P resources to be published. And we met Des McWilliam to work on producing television and video products. Little did any of us know what we were getting ourselves in for. Following on from that first P trial, early contracts with the Victorian government, Western Australian government and Queensland Health meant that we were liaising with colleagues around the country via fax in those days, and mail, because email wasn't even a thing back then. So since that time, so much has changed and so many people have been involved in the journey. Thanks to Matt's vision and drive, we've really had to blaze trails in a lot of different ways, from working with contracts around intellectual property and conflict of interest policy for the university. We've worked on bringing clinical psychology into people's lounge rooms through television and media.
So do you want to?
Someone is speaking online. We've really brought together the international parenting support community with an international conference, traveling around the globe each year, which has meant a whole network of fantastic colleagues. And also that first foray into online interventions, which was the world first interactive parenting support program online. So over the decades, it's been a pleasure, this journey with Matt and with many of you. And we've got a little video to show that just gives a little flavour of the ride that it's been. We put this together for the 25th anniversary of the Parenting and Family Support Centre. So it just is a little snapshot of Matt's career and our team. Now, is that just...
It all started with a PhD in 1981, the discoveries of which focused on a determination to improve the lives of families through parenting. It took a passionate and dedicated team 15 years to build the foundation clinical programs, and in 1996 established the Parenting and Family Support Centre at the University of Queensland. With what began as essentially a demonstration clinic and a publishing and dissemination strategy, the Parenting and Family Support Centre has grown into a centre that continually attracts dedicated researchers and students who constantly build the evidence base and trial new ways of working with families. The flagship of the Parenting and Family Support Centre is the P Positive Parenting Program, a system of 20 different interventions that have been translated into 26 languages, with practitioners from 58 countries having been trained in P. And with the support of the Queensland Government, 500,000 Queensland parents from all over the state have benefited from P since 2015. It's humbling to know the work of the Parenting and Family Support Centre and our industry partner P International has impacted the lives of families from all around the globe, as well as progressing service delivery and research. While keeping evidence-based parenting and family support programs at our core, we've evolved with a changing world. From home visits and group learning to mass media and online programs, ensuring flexible delivery options so all families can access the help they need. During the past 25 years, the Parenting and Family Support Centre has had its share of world firsts, like the first population-level implementation and evaluation of a parenting intervention, the first media-based and interactive online programs, and the first to show that a population approach to parenting support could reduce the rates of child maltreatment. The Parenting and Family Support Centre's research impact includes more than 580 research publications, a third of these involving international collaboration. The track record of the Parenting and Family Support Centre speaks for itself, and while there is plenty to celebrate about the first 25 years, it's the unlimited potential of a disciplined, proactive centre that refuses to rest on its many accolades that is truly worth celebrating.
So just to keep you all on your toes, we now have a little quiz. Seriously. And there's a prize. So I'll set it in a minute. There's a QR code. So if you have phones with you, pull them out. We're giving you 4 minutes. The person who gets the fastest and most accurate will be the prize winner. But let me get the code for you. Give you 4 minutes.
What's the prize?
You get to compete.
There's 4 options.
How are we doing? All right, good luck, everybody. Let me just now pass over to Professor Jason Mattingley, who's Foundation Chair in Cognitive Neuroscience at the Queensland Brain Institute and School of Psychology. Jason's another long-term faculty member, so I'll just invite him up to say a few words.
Well, I'd also like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of these lands and pay my respects to their elders past, present and emerging. I just did that quiz. In full disclosure, Matt, I got 43% correct, and I just pointed out to Debbie that is better than chance. There's 4 options for each. Anyway, we'll see. I'm sure someone else in this room can beat me. It's a great pleasure to have this opportunity to say a few words about Matt and his remarkable achievements over a career that spanned more than 40 years, as we've heard. So I first met Matt when I moved to UQ in 2007. Prior to that, I'd been a member in the School of Psychology at Melbourne University. And I have to confess that before I moved here, I knew absolutely nothing or next to nothing about the School of Psychology here at UQ. And I have to say that was just a reflection of my ignorance, not an indictment on the school's research reputation. But in any event, there was one thing I did know about psychology at UQ, and that was that it was the home of the P positive parenting program. Before I did my PhD, I trained as a clinical neuropsychologist, and I still recall attending workshops as part of our pediatric placements where we learned about the P approach. And when I told my colleagues at Melbourne Uni that I was moving up to UQ, they immediately invoked your name in sort of hushed tones and looked at me with great envy. So I knew I was coming to a good place. And of course, it wasn't long before I saw firsthand what an incredible global influence Matt's research had and is still having on parenting studies and family psychology. And over the years, I've learned more about the groundbreaking work that's being undertaken in the Parenting and Family Support Centre by Matt, but also by an ever-expanding team of talented students and research fellows, many of whom are here today. We've already heard from Debbie that the list of Matt's achievements are in many ways too numerous to mention. I have a 4-page document just in bullet point form that summarises all of the amazing achievements. And of course, there are the usual sort of academic metrics, things like publications, 600 publications from the centre, just outstanding and amazing. 45,000 citations. I think that might be one of the questions on your multiple choice quiz. 85 practitioner manuals, more than 500 keynote addresses and invited presentations. Just staggering, amazing contribution. But I think you really know that you've made it in science when you can ask ChatGPT to write a career biography. And I ran a little experiment last night. Debbie knows that this is something I like to do. I ran a little experiment last night where I asked it to put together a short biography of you. And in about 3 seconds, it came up with a 2,000-word subheaded document with all of your achievements. And I could go on, but I'm just going to read you this one paragraph. I think it did a good job. You know, ChatGPT can sometimes hallucinate. I don't think there are any hallucinations in here. Here's what it said. The impact of Professor Sanders' work extends far beyond Australia. The P program has been implemented in more than 30 countries, and the research underpinning it is vast, with numerous clinical trials validating its effectiveness in improving child outcomes. Studies have shown that P can lead to reductions in child behaviour problems, improve parental confidence, and even have positive effects on mental health within the family system. In fact, the program is so well regarded that it's often recommended as a best practice intervention by governments and health agencies around the world. Professor Sanders' influence has also extended into public policy, as his research and advocacy for evidence-based parenting programs have shaped child welfare strategies in multiple countries. In the United Kingdom, the Netherlands, the United States, P has been adopted into public health frameworks to help prevent child abuse and neglect and promote positive family dynamics. Is that a reasonable summary, do you think? That was 2 seconds work by an AI system, so pretty impressive. Seriously though, of all of your achievements, Matt, what stands out to me the most is the number of students and young people, research fellows, who you've supervised and mentored over the years. As we heard before, more than 50 PhD students over the years. And I thought I would just name a few of them here, far too many to mention, but here are a few. Mark Dadds, who is now Professor of Psychology at the University of Sydney and Director of the Sydney Child Behaviour Research Clinic. Jan Nicholson, who was the inaugural Roberta Holmes Professor and Director of the Judith Lumley Centre at La Trobe University. Here at UQ, we of course have many of you in the audience, Professor Alina Moravska, who took over from Matt as Director of the Parenting and Family Support Centre. We've heard from Associate Professor Karen Turner, the Deputy Director of PFSC, Associate Professor James Kirby, who I saw coming in. There he is, who's co-director of the Compassionate Mind Research Group at UQ, and I could go on and on. Beyond UQ, of course, Matt's ex-students now occupy senior psychology roles across Australia and overseas, both in universities and I think really importantly in private practice as well. alongside the enormous societal benefits of the Triple P program, in my view, it's this legacy of mentorship and supervision that is likely to have the most significant and enduring impact going forward. And another of Matt's enduring legacies is the establishment in 2020 of the Parenting and Family Research Alliance, or PAFRA. And Matt and I had many conversations about this in the infancy of PAFRA. And Matt was the founding chair of that organisation. And for those of you who don't know, PAFRA is a collaborative alliance for research, communication and advocacy relating to parenting, families and evidence-based parenting support. A key aim of PAFRA is to facilitate collaboration between parenting and family researchers and research centres, and also to advocate with government on relevant policies and funding. I know that PAFRA also hosts the International Congress on Evidence-Based Parenting Support, or ICEPS. Matt was the inaugural convener of the first meeting of ICEPS in 2023. And I think there was another 2024 meeting. Has it already happened? 25. So that's the beginning of a kind of new initiative. Of course, Matt's many achievements, as Debbie mentioned, have not gone unnoticed in the wider community. So in 2016, he was elected an honorary fellow of the Academy of Social Sciences in Australia. And in 2007, he was made a fellow of the Australian Psychological Society. And he also received the APS President's Award for Distinguished Contributions to Psychology. In 2007, he was named Queenslander of the Year, and in 2020, he was made an Officer of the Order of Australia. So not too shabby for a Kiwi who supports the All Blacks. We won't go into that. Now, Matt knows this. I wanted some sort of witty anecdote to end this presentation. And I was trying to think of one and I couldn't think of one. And I thought, all right, I'll turn to ChatGPT again. So here's what I wrote. I asked ChatGPT, please write me a funny anecdote about Professor Matthew Sanders, developer of Triple P Parenting Program at the University of Queensland. And it very quickly made up this story. You want to hear it? It prefaces the story with this. It says, here is a lighthearted and fictional anecdote about Professor Matthew Sanders, inspired by his work with the Triple P Parenting Program and his expertise in child development. So I'm going to read it to you. It's called The Conference Parenting Test. During a psychology conference in Europe, Professor Matthew Sanders was giving a keynote speech on the importance of positive parenting. As he passionately explained the benefits of consistent, non-punitive discipline, a toddler in the front row decided to stage an impromptu demonstration of defiance. The child had grabbed hold of a water bottle and was repeatedly attempting to pour it on the floor, much to the dismay of her exhausted-looking parent. Without skipping a beat, this sounds very familiar, without skipping a beat, Sanders, in true Triple P style, paused mid-sentence, smiled and said, now this is a classic example of what I like to call a teachable moment. The audience chuckled as the child giggled mischievously, clearly enjoying the attention. Sanders then leaned down, his eyes twinkling, do your eyes twinkle? And said to the toddler, I see you're exploring, but how about we keep the water in the bottle and not on the floor, okay? High five. To everyone's amazement, the child dropped the bottle, gave him a high five, and sat down looking oddly content. He turned back to the audience and said, see, positive reinforcement, folks. Sometimes, even during conferences, parenting theory can be put into practice. The room erupted in laughter and applause. I kid you not, this is all straight out of ChatGPT. And the parent looked like they were about to enroll in the nearest Triple P workshop. Anyway, just a kind of lighthearted finish. But Matt, as we've heard, an incredible career. Thank you so much for everything you've done for the community, for UQ, of course, for your colleagues, for people like me. I've enjoyed our conversations together over the years. And we wish you all the very best in your retirement, although I suspect you're not really going anywhere. So thank you and congratulations.
All right, now it is my honor to turn over the stage to the person we're here to celebrate. Professor Matthew Sanders, AO, professor and founder of the Parenting and Family Support Center at the University of Queensland.
Thank you very much, and thank you everyone for those really fantastic words. Virginia, Debbie, Jason, Karen, to be here right now to reflect on the work that we've done at UQ through the Parenting and Family Support Centre and Triple P is sort of quite challenging in some ways. But I would like to begin by also thanking the traditional custodians of the land on which we meet today at UQ, the Yagara and Turrbal people, and I pay my respects to their ancestors and descendants who continue important spiritual and cultural connection to country. What I want to do is to try to make a case really for why parenting is important and how it can transform lives. Nelson Mandela once said, apart from families being the building blocks of nurturing societies, he said the strength of a nation is defined by the treatment of its children, and that treatment is most profoundly shaped by the quality of parenting a child receives. How we raise and care for our children impacts nearly every important social outcome most of us would like to see, regardless of where we're from or the circumstances in which we raise our children. Everyday interactions have a massive impact on children's development, whether it's the early wiring of their brains through to their language, their relationships with teachers and peers, their performance at school, mental health, whether they develop patterns of antisocial behaviour and later life chances and well-being. While the ingredients to a happy and healthy childhood may seem obvious to many of us, things like love, affection, good communication, creating opportunities for our kids, consistent discipline and clear boundaries, they're not obvious to everyone. Many Australians were shocked to learn of the size of the problem of child maltreatment when those little moments, the cuddles, the chats, the boundaries, the limits, the lessons in life are absent from children's homes. The Australian Child Maltreatment Study found that 32% of the Australian population experience physical abuse and 31% emotional abuse. Maltreatment is estimated to contribute to 40% of Australia's adult mental health problems. And child maltreatment increases the risk of later problems such as mental health concerns, substance abuse, youth offending and violence. The World Health Organization and many others are clearly of one voice that child maltreatment is a major public health concern, and it certainly is here. The argument that I'd like to put is that our efforts to address these problems, we've been on a bit of a pendulum swing between a heavy-handed interventionist approach through to not intervening enough or at all. And either way, children, parents and caregivers have not been well served by our efforts to date. I believe that the single most important thing we can do to promote the well-being of children and to prevent child maltreatment is to increase access to high-quality, culturally informed, evidence-based parenting support. However, we live in a world where there is a lack of policy priority given to this area. Despite the importance of parenting support and its capacity to influence life course outcomes, it's not a policy priority. We're in the midst of an election this week. Who's ever heard any of the politicians talk about parenting or family support or family intervention in a serious way? It just does not register. Most governments can't even tell you how much money they spend on parenting programs or the outcomes they achieve. Governments must invest in dedicated funding, in training and in supporting a workforce to implement programs that work and to support research and development so new programs can be developed to address the contemporary needs of families and continuously evaluated.
Throughout my career, I've devoted myself to developing a public health approach to parenting support known as the P Positive Parenting Program. And it did all start with my PhD, which I completed in 1981, which focused on evaluating the effects of teaching parents self-management skills as they were learning parenting strategies to manage their disruptive preschool-aged children. And P has now evolved from essentially a home visiting program for parents of preschoolers to a population level strategy. But one fundamental theme has underpinned the whole series of programs that inform P, and that is the capacity to self-regulate is a fundamental process underpinning the maintenance of positive, nurturing, and non-abusive parenting practices. So what kind of parenting is needed? What are the key principles that bind the experiences of parents regardless of where they are in the world? Our approach to positive parenting emphasises 5 key principles. And it's not just about how to help parents resolve behaviour management dilemmas with their children, but it's based on building the social and emotional skills that children need throughout childhood and in later life so they can become thriving, happy members of society. There are 5 key principles. The first is children are more likely to thrive if they grow up in a safe, caring and nurturing environment where there's plenty of interesting and age-appropriate things for children to do. They're more likely to thrive in an environment that is a positive and learning environment where encouragement and positive attention help children learn the skills they need to thrive. And this is not just about praising kids and catching them doing the right thing. It's about responsivity to child-initiated interactions. When children are approaching us, wanting to show us something, want to share something with us, we're prepared to pause, interrupt, pay attention to the needs of the moment, which will often then allow kids to separate and continue with exploratory behaviour and self-directed activity. Children are going to do better in an environment of clear boundaries and limits, where it's clear to children what's expected of them, and parents have got the confidence to back up what they're saying so that children learn acceptable alternative behaviours in an environment where we as parents have reasonable expectations of our kids, of us ourselves as parents, and of anyone else who is looking after our children, which of course can include grandparents and other extended family members, sports coaches and other tutors in kids' lives that can assist them with learning. And finally, taking care of ourselves as a parent. If we're miserable, if we're lonely, if we're isolated, if we're living in a violent, conflictual relationship, it is so much harder to be positive and nurturing in our parenting practices. When we think about the kind of parenting programs that are needed, it's a really important issue to ask the question of what defines, in the first instance, effective parenting, and then what defines a quality parenting program. Because when you ask parents about what they're looking for in parenting support, very few parents are actually participating in structured parenting programs. The vast majority of the world's children grow up in homes where their parents have not had the benefits of participating in a quality parenting program. They learn on the job through trial and error with little formal support. In Australia, 75% of parents do not access formal parenting programs and less than 10% access evidence-based programs. So when we start thinking about what is needed, parenting advice that works must be delivered in a respectful and sensitive way to take into account parents' life circumstances and to avoid being judgmental, moralistic, or prescriptive. Most parents are looking for support that is brief and effective, free from stigma, easily accessed, informed by their culture and their priorities, and addresses the issues that they're actually concerned about. Crucially, though, parents want programs that have been proven to work, and that, in our world, means it must have a strong evidence base. Now, evidence-based parenting support we define in this way. It involves a full spectrum of programs, from media and communication strategies to intensive individual and group programs. But it's based on a clear theoretical framework that informs everything that goes into that intervention. It has an operationalised theory of change which explains how and why parents change and under what circumstances. It has clearly defined intervention procedures that can be replicated by others, therefore others can be trained in those processes. And the primary focus is on changing parenting and family functioning, not other things. The emphasis of evidence-based parenting support is parenting. The intervention has to have been rigorously evaluated, and that doesn't mean a single trial that has been conducted. You'll see in a moment that when we talk about the strength of evidence that builds around PPP, what it actually needs to look like. And evidence is needed to show that it's acceptable and culturally appropriate. So when we started to think about designing a system, a suite of evidence-based programs, it was important to remember that this is an intervention that covers from very early childhood, babyhood, right through to the teen years. There are 5 levels of intervention, a tiered continuum of interventions of increasing intensity but narrowing population reach. And so when you think about parenting support for all, the aspiration was to develop a variant of PPP that in fact would that any parent would find an intervention within this system that was appropriate to their needs. And the fundamental goal essentially was to have a positive focus on the programs to help parents develop the knowledge, skills and confidence they need, and to promote essentially a can-do approach and a sense of building that sense of personal agency. In a lot of ways, when I think back to the early 80s, when I was beginning my work in this field over 40 years ago, I concluded we really did need a whole of population approach to make this work. And so those features essentially summarise some of the key elements that go into a population approach. And remember, when you're thinking about the vast range of individual differences within parents within our community and what parents might be seeking and looking for, it was really important to move away from any sense that we just needed a single program or it was a one-size-fits-all and that was going to do the job. And so the 5-level system has led to a toolbox in a sense that has got 33 different programs now that are part of PPP. Not absolutely all of them have been disseminated because we do not disseminate programs that don't work or that can't reach an evidence threshold. And that's really important when you've got a brand relating to a program such as PPP that is clearly committed to having a scientific and credible base, that if you allow things to slip in that don't meet the criteria for evidence-based programs, I think universities should have nothing to do with the dissemination of those kind of programs. They're actually potentially harmful. So if you think about a parenting program that involves, for a lot of parents, them simply pausing and reflecting and making minor adjustments to their behaviours, thoughts and emotions when they're dealing with their children, that's the majority of people. Most parents don't need skills training. They don't need to participate in active skills training. They actually know how to do these things. What they don't know necessarily is the combinations. What mix of strategies are appropriate? They've often got the skills. There are, however, a subgroup of parents who definitely need skills training, need much higher levels of support to acquire the skills that are required to be patient, calm, consistent, to be able to follow through and so on. The other thing I'd just like to draw to your attention is that when you think about PPP, and we've had a number of different numbers floated around about how extensive PPP is, but I can tell you the latest figure is 72 countries. Practitioners have been trained from 72 countries in PPP. And the remarkable thing is that the effect sizes from studies in Western cultures are very similar to the effect sizes in studies in Asia and the Middle East. In fact, it's remarkable to me to think that the shared journey of parenthood is much greater than those things that separate and divide on the basis of culture. And all you need to do is just think about a 3 or a 4-year-old doing a massive meltdown in a public place. It looks very similar in downtown Tehran, in Tokyo, or out here in Indrapilli Shopping Centre. It's universally embarrassing for parents. There's a strong motivational press to turn it off quickly and get out of the spotlight. For many parents, it means caving into those demands that you buy them the sweet or the drink or the whatever that could disrupt their appetite for the meal. And that parents, interestingly, it doesn't matter where they're from, if they can identify with the parenting situation and could see themselves in that situation with that child, they're highly interested in what a solution might look like. And if you think about parenting kids who are misbehaving in public, there's actually very few solutions that work. And a lot of the things you need to do, you needed to have done before you got anywhere near the shops. And so the main point about this is that when we think about parenting in a diverse cultural context, the important thing to recognise is that many of the problems parents experience difficulties with are the same all over the world, regardless of where you live. You can be living in a refugee camp, but you've still got to get your kids to bed at night. You've still got to stop them from throttling each other. You still probably have got to get them to be able to go to school and so on. So when we start to think about building an evidence base, there are now 820 studies that have been published on PPP. This comprises 414 evaluation studies. PPP's is featured in 153 meta-analyses. There are nearly 200 randomised clinical trials, the so-called gold proof, the scientific standard for evaluation of interventions. And importantly now, from a conflict of interest perspective, nearly 2/3 of the studies conducted have not involved us as developers, which is really quite important because in the early days, no one else even knew about PPP, so we were the only ones who could evaluate it. You actually have to have a dissemination mechanism before you can have independent evaluation of it. But interestingly, this has involved nearly 1,800 authors from 551 academic institutions from 42 countries, and PPP is being delivered in 23 languages. So what I'd like you to reflect on for a moment is, what does a population-based approach to parenting support look like? We asked this question, funded by the ARC Centre of Excellence for Children and Families over the Life Course, the Life Course Centre, where we did a population trial. 64 of the most socially disadvantaged communities in Queensland and New South Wales either received the PPP system or services as usual. And the whole idea was to build an appetite in the parenting community to access evidence-based parenting support. Sites in Queensland were Ipswich, Moreton and Toowoomba. And the whole idea of building an appetite within a community where parents would come to participate in a parenting program. Seminars were popular vehicles for delivering parenting programs. This is actually an image captured in a high school in Cairns where Triple P seminars were being delivered. Did it work? Yes, it did. We had a 25% reduction in substantiated cases of child maltreatment after 2 years of intervention in the Triple P systems community compared to care as usual communities. This represents a really significant impact on the lives of children and families. And the thing that I'd just like us all to reflect on again is, in answer to the question, can child maltreatment be prevented in socially disadvantaged communities? The answer appears to be yes. But we need the political will to do so. We need to know what the levers are for government to decide investing in programs like this is worthwhile. The Washington State Institute of Public Policy estimated that the implementation of the Triple P system in the US population trial resulted in an almost $9 cost offset for every $1 spent on the implementation of Triple P. And the British Medical Association has estimated that our programs generate returns of about £5 for every £1 invested, based on reductions in disruptive behaviour problems, child abuse and neglect, crime and substance abuse, and increases in school graduation and employment. And so when we think about the whole issue of persuading governments that it is important to see increased access of parents to evidence-based parenting support as really crucially related to policy areas such as reducing serious mental health problems in children, it's been very gratifying to see that the federal government has actually come on board with this idea and is supporting the national rollout of Triple P Online that Jenna McWilliam will be speaking to briefly in a moment. I think we're making progress, but it's been slow. I think we have a way to go until we get to a point where parenting programs are considered a healthy, normal thing to do that can greatly benefit our children and families. I look forward to a time when the availability of parenting programs and parent motivation to do them mirrors that of antenatal classes, so that nobody thinks of them as being exceptional, feels any stigma being attached to being part of them. So in conclusion, I would like to ask, what kind of community would be a great place to raise a family? What does it need to look like? For me, it's a place that values, supports, and celebrates the importance of parenting. It's a place that recognises that the well-being of children and families is a shared community responsibility. It respects a parent's role in determining the values, skills, and behaviours they wish to promote in their children and the parenting practices they use to get there. It's not about being prescribed and told what you must do to be a good parent. It's about promoting the cultural and social connectedness of families through parenting programs and to support family self-regulation and autonomy in raising children. Because if we don't fundamentally accept the idea of a parent's right to choose how they wish to raise their kids, we're constantly going to be confronted with resistance and parents not wanting to participate in parenting programs. And it's a place that ensures that parents are empowered and skilled to participate in planning and decision-making that impacts on children and families. When we create these kind of communities, we can create a society where compassion, tolerance, and nurturance are the norm, where violence is not tolerated, and gender equity in parenting is an everyday reality for many families, most families. And it's a place that would recognise that good parenting is rightly considered the clean water of children's mental health, resilience, and well-being. This is a call to action. And it's to governments to make high-quality, culturally informed, evidence-based parenting programs accessible to all families. However, in order to do this, we need to take proactive steps to invest in this parenting support, to set realistic but ambitious targets, and to fund them accordingly for this generation and many more to come. Let me end by acknowledging the amazing support of my own family. I've been very fortunate over my career to have had the emotional and practical support of my wife, Trish, for 50 years. Excuse me. And my kids, Emma and Ben, and my 5 beautiful grandchildren, Charlotte, Sam, Rose, Alex, and Lucy, who've kept me anchored and appreciative every day of the importance of our family to our own mental health and well-being and opportunities in life. Thank you, everyone.
Yeah. Now I would like to introduce Dr. Jenna McWilliam, Head of Organizational Development at Triple P International and Honorary Research Fellow in the School of Psychology at UQ. Jenna will be speaking on behalf of Dr. Des McWilliam, who's the Managing Director of Triple P International.
Well, that's a hard act to follow. I'll do my best. I wanted to start by acknowledging the traditional owners of the land on which we meet today and pay my respects to elders past and present. It's a great pleasure to be here today to celebrate the remarkable achievements of Professor Matt Sanders. I'm here speaking on behalf of Des McWilliam, who's travelling and really disappointed that he couldn't be here today. If you were here, he would start by telling the story of how he and Matt met. It was the early 90s. Des was on a career hiatus, having worked in television news, and he couldn't understand why the most popular show on Australian television was about gardening. As a father with 2 small children, he thought parenting would be much more entertaining. He went looking for a parenting expert and he found Matt, and the rest, as they say, is history. With Matt and his university colleagues, With Matt and his university colleagues developing the program content, Des and colleagues started to produce all of the video assets. He started a company to print the published resources and eventually went on to establish Triple P International when the university asked him to take over the training and dissemination for all Triple P programs globally. Born out of mutual interest and respect and maintained through passion and a commitment to innovate, this collaboration has now lasted for over 30 years. On a personal note, Matt has been a part of my life from a very early age. He inspired me to embark on a career in psychology. He was a supervisor for my doctoral research, and I've been lucky to work with him for the past 20 years, actually a bit longer. A few people have tried to put the impact of Triple P into numbers, and I too am going to make an attempt at that from a slightly different perspective. So at Triple P International, we now have over 200 staff and contractors across offices in 8 different countries. We have program resources translated now into over 20 languages. We have shipped those resources to over 80 countries, and we've trained well over 100,000 practitioners. We estimate that Triple P globally has reached 8 million children and their families. 8 million at a conservative estimate. Triple P is a very unique and incredibly successful example of a university industry partnership. And so much of that is down to the brilliance of Matt's vision and the quality of Triple P research and programs. The thing that always strikes me about Matt is he doesn't just stop at the first sign of success. He is constantly trying to improve the lives of families and to push the field of parenting and family support to improve and to evolve.
And along the way, he has acted as champion and mentor to so many, evidenced by the number of program developers, researchers, and people supporting the dissemination. Together, Matt, the Parenting and Family Support Centre, and Triple P International have achieved so much. There have been a lot of firsts, but one of the ones that will leave a lasting legacy close to home is the world's first national population rollout of Triple P in Australia. It was always Matt's vision, and we're so pleased to have pulled it off just before his retirement. Although those of us who know know that that will be retirement in name only. We'll show a short video detailing the reach and impact of that work. But before that, I just wanted to finish up by saying thank you to Matt. Thank you for your dedication and hard work. What you have created has had such a significant impact on so many around the world, and we're so grateful for the opportunity to contribute. Congratulations on all your achievements.
A rollout across the nation of Triple P's online evidence-based parenting programs. A world-first initiative, the project has vital aims to support the Australian Government's ambition to improve the mental health of our children. It's now more than 2 years into the Government's Parenting Education and Support program. Through Triple P's online delivery, more than 375,000 parents and carers have registered for the self-directed and proven programs to boost parent confidence and child behaviour. That's more than 20,000 parents per month. The programs Triple P Online for Baby, Feel Less Triple P Online, and Family Transitions Triple P Online have been used across the country, including in remote areas. The University of Queensland has independently evaluated the programs so far. They've found improvements in child emotional and behavioural problems, child anxiety symptoms, and parental mental health. And these benefits are sustained over the long term. Improvements are shown across demographic groups, with results from First Nations families particularly strong, including changes to parenting practices and parent confidence. Parents report they're equipped with effective parenting strategies and tools. They feel a new sense of calm, greater patience, have improved their communication, and enjoy a closer bond with their children. These positive changes for parents result in improvements to the mental health and behavioural and emotional development of their children. So the power of the Parenting Education and Support program continues to demonstrate benefits which are sustained over time. And the rollout across society by Triple P has been effective, involving over 1,600 organisations, schools, government departments, GPs and other health professionals. This wide and open access has broken down barriers, allowing PESP to achieve large-scale social change. Ready access has reduced the stigma of seeking support with parenting. There's now greater acceptance across communities of parenting programs as a way to improve their family lives and the well-being of their children. By the end of June 2025, Triple P, through the PESP, expects to support more than 530,000 families in Australia. Governments and societies worldwide face constant challenges: a rising cost of living, child maltreatment, poor school attendance, and screen time issues are just some of the factors impacting the mental health of our children. So the ongoing provision of parenting programs is as important now as it was at the start of the Parenting Education and Support program.
Next, may I invite, it says associate professor, but we all know she's actually a professor. Officially as of January. May I invite Professor Alina Moravska, Director of the Parenting and Family Support Center of UQ, to say a few words.
Thank you. It's wonderful to see you all here, and I too want to pay my respects to the traditional custodians of the lands on which we're meeting and to acknowledge their contributions to our society. Now I've got a formal component to what I need to say and then a slightly informal. So first of all, I just obviously wanted to say that Matt's contributions to what are now multiple generations of children and families and researchers are obviously incredible. You've heard all about those. I'm not going to repeat those. I think the point is that, you know, a few of you have said retirement in name only. I think retirement is not going to stop Matt from continuing to make a difference. So it is my great pleasure to announce that the Sanders Family Foundation has made a contribution to the Parenting and Family Support Centre and to UQ in the form of 2 domestic top-up scholarships that are going to support 2 domestic students to conduct research in 2 different areas. One is in the dissemination of evidence-based parenting support, and one is in looking at ways to support families experiencing multiple adversities and reducing family violence. So this is just another example of Matt's unwavering and ongoing determination to ensure that the evidence continues to evolve and that we also continue to support the next generation of researchers. So I really want to extend my thanks and the university's thanks to Matt and to the Sanders Family Foundation for that amazing contribution to the next generation. Now, as many of you know, Matt has been an early adopter of technology. He always has the latest iPhone, and he gets that before anyone else has it. And anybody who's ever entered Matt's office knows that the number of devices and gadgets probably takes up the majority of the space there. Now, one of his latest adoptions is AI, and particularly ChatGPT, which he regularly consults. And it's interesting that Jason clearly consults it regularly too. So I'm not quite sure what that tells us about university academics. And so I thought I too would check with ChatGPT about what I should say today about Matt. Now, interestingly, ChatGPT, when I gave it the prompt about what I wanted to share today, didn't know about PPP in relation to Matt, or that I was one of Matt's PhD students, or our extensive collaborations over the years, which have obviously all been instrumental to my own career. Nevertheless, amongst the usual sort of overly adjectivized verbiage that it produced, which I won't read, it did come up with some unusual references to chickens. Now, this clearly therefore indicates that ChatGPT knows what it's talking about, given Matt's history with chickens and chicken impersonations. So if you know what I'm talking about, you know. Otherwise, I suggest you use that as your first point of conversation over drinks and canapes in a few moments. And with that, I'm going to now hand over to Associate Professor James Kirby. And as many of you know, but perhaps not ChatGPT, James is also one of Matt's many former PhD students and now a colleague in the School of Psychology.
Oh, it's good to be here for Matt. I've been waiting for this day, Matt. I just kidding. Now all the dirt I've got on. No, it's wonderful to be here, and I'd like to, of course, acknowledge the traditional owners on the lands in which we meet today as well. I'm not going to say much. I've just brought a bit of light-hearted entertainment through a video which is not polished. It's very rough. Certainly wasn't put together by ChatGPT. This is kind of an edited kind of video across a number of our end-of-year parenting and family support centre Christmas parties, which were always in like 35 or 36 degree heat, which made the drinking much better. But they were always a wonderful collective community, and it's a wonderful community you've brought together today, Matt, as well. But I'd just like to thank you, big guy, for everything.
Well, thank you, James. That was brilliant. That was fantastic. And also thanks to everyone here who has stood up and provided reflections on Matt. Now, as the final thing, I get to announce quiz outcome. So we had 2 people who got what we at UQ like to call first class, above 80% correct. So one person got 87%. That is 20 out of 23 questions correct. And that was Emma Sanders. So well done, Emma. But Emma is family. We had another person who had 83% correct. That is 19 out of 23. And this person was quicker than Emma. This person is not family. This person is the winner, Kim Halford. May I say once again, thanks to everyone. This is the end of the formal proceedings. Can I ask that you leave by the top stairs and join us for refreshments on the deck? Thanks, everyone.